The incessant pursuit of a prosperous financial life is a journey that, for the vast majority, begins with a fundamental misconception. It is a veiled paradox that manifests in the almost unanimous belief that the path to abundance is paved with overtime, constant acceleration, and an effort that borders on exhaustion. This mindset, although it seems logical at first glance, after all, more work should mean more reward, in practice leads to a vicious cycle of exhaustion, chronic stress, and a frustrating sense of stagnation. We spend our days rushing, trying to reach a financial future that, paradoxically, always seems to elude us, fueling doubt about our own capacity for progress. Life becomes a marathon with no visible finish line, where each step forward is overshadowed by accumulated exhaustion and anxiety about what is yet to come. Vital energy dissipates in an effort that rarely translates into the desired stability and financial freedom, leaving a trail of disappointment and questions about the purpose of so much sacrifice. However, there is a deeper truth, a master principle that, once understood, redefines the entire perspective on building wealth. This often counterintuitive principle deviates radically from popular wisdom. It teaches us that money, in its essence, is not an end goal to be pursued tooth and nail, but rather a natural consequence. A direct, not accidental consequence of the intrinsic value you are able to deliver to the world. This subtle yet powerful shift in focus aligns all other aspects of your life with the flow of prosperity. Instead of dedicating yourself to activities solely aimed at accumulating more resources, your attention turns to enhancing your ability to generate value. It is an invitation to leave the scarcity mindset and embrace the abundance mindset, understanding that wealth is a result, not the primary cause. This deep understanding is the catalyst that initiates a genuine and sustainable transformation. When this fundamental principle, the delivery of value as the generator of wealth, is internalized and consistently applied, it radically reshapes various spheres of existence. Your professional career is the first to feel the transformative impact. Instead of focusing on climbing corporate ladders based on seniority or hours worked, energy is directed towards developing skills and delivering results that genuinely benefit the organization and its clients. The ability to conduct business is also amplified. Negotiation ceases to be a battle of wills and becomes a collaboration focused on creating solutions that meet the needs of all parties involved, generating mutual value and consequently profitability. However, the area where this change manifests most profoundly and personally is in your relationship with finances. The anxiety associated with money diminishes as you realize that your ability to generate value is the true source of security and prosperity, not the balance in a bank account. What this material aims to offer goes far beyond a set of techniques for generating more income. The ultimate promise is the forging of a new identity, a transformation of who you are at a fundamental level. The goal is not just to instruct you on how to attract more money, but to empower you to become a true magnet for value. Someone whose presence and contributions naturally attract wealth as an inevitable consequence of their own evolution. It is an invitation to stop being a mere spectator of scarcity and become an active agent in the creation of abundance, not only for yourself, but for the world around you. This metamorphosis of identity is what allows wealth to flow steadily and sustainably, dissolving the mental barriers that once limited your financial potential and paving the way for a life of greater freedom, purpose, and prosperity. The paradigm shift that positions the delivery of value as the master lever of wealth is not restricted to the professional and business spheres. It permeates and redefines the very structure of our relationship with money. Instead of viewing finances as an external entity, an adversary to be tamed or a reward to be won through sacrifices, we begin to see them as a direct reflection of our actions and the quality of our engagement with the world. This means that financial management ceases to be an exercise in deprivation and rigid control and becomes a practice of amplifying and strategically directing the value generated. Think about it. When your focus is genuinely on improving someone's life, solving a complex problem, or creating a memorable experience, money tends to follow that flow. It becomes a tool to further expand this capacity to generate positive impact, not an end in itself. Let's delve a little deeper into the practical applications of this perspective. Consider, for example, how you handle long-term planning. Often, financial planning is dominated by projections of expenses and savings, an exercise that can seem restrictive and disheartening. However, when the foundation is value generation, planning is transformed. It becomes about how you can exponentially increase your capacity to deliver value over time. This might involve the continuous improvement of skills, seeking knowledge that makes you more indispensable in your field, or identifying new opportunities to serve a larger audience or one with more critical needs. Consequently, your long-term financial goals, be it retirement, acquiring significant assets, or the ability to support causes dear to you, become goals of value development, not just goals of resource accumulation. Another crucial facet emerges when we examine the dynamics of risk and investment. The traditional mindset might associate investment with risky bets, guided by the hope of quick and often speculative returns. In contrast, a value-centered approach sees investment as a logical extension of your ability to generate value. This means investing in yourself, in education, health, well-being, or in tangible ventures and assets that have a clear purpose and an intrinsic potential for growth, driven by real demand and utility. Risk in this context is not the absence of security, but the opportunity to apply your resources in a way that maximizes the positive impact you can create, knowing that greater impact tends to translate into greater return. Imagine, for a moment, the difference between someone who saves every penny for fear of spending, living a life of deprivation in hopes of an uncertain future, and someone who, by generating exceptional value in their field, can strategically invest in experiences that enhance their worldview and connections, or in tools that expand their delivery capacity. The second individual, although they may have a different cash flow, is actively building a future where their ability to generate value is continuously expanded, making wealth not an isolated event, but an organic and growing process. This perspective transforms the very nature of financial success, shifting it from a static and feared state to a dynamic and intentional process of creating and amplifying impact. The redefinition of our relationship with finances goes beyond a simple change in perspective. It materializes in how we approach daily and strategic financial decisions. Now consider how this applies when faced with the temptation of impulsive spending or social pressure to consume. Instead of succumbing to a momentary impulse guided by instant gratification, your new lens allows you to evaluate the long-term impact of that decision on your ability to generate value. An unnecessary purchase, for example, is not just an outflow of money. It is the potential loss of resources that could have been directed towards honing a skill, acquiring valuable knowledge, or investing in a project that would significantly increase your contribution. Thus, the decision to spend becomes a conscious act of weighing immediate value against potential value to be cultivated. Saving, far from being deprivation, comes to be seen as the strategic reinvestment in your own value capital, preparing the ground for future and more significant deliveries. Additionally, the very nature of abundance manifests in unexpected ways when we focus on generating value. Think about how generosity, often seen as an act of giving away what one has in excess, takes on a new dimension. When you are actively engaged in creating and delivering value, generosity becomes a natural extension of that process. Donating time, knowledge, or resources is not a sacrifice but a way of sowing value in other corners, strengthening an ecosystem that can ultimately return benefits in unforeseen ways. For example, mentoring a young entrepreneur not only helps them grow, but creates a potential ally or future business partner. Offering pro bono help to a non-profit organization can open doors to new connections and opportunities that would never be accessed through conventional channels. This circulation of value, driven by a mindset of abundance and delivery, creates a virtuous cycle where generosity transforms into amplified prosperity. Another crucial aspect lies in how we deal with financial adversities. The traditional approach of working more to compensate can lead to a cycle of debt and stress when unforeseen events occur. On the other hand, a solid foundation in delivering value equips us with inherent resilience. When we face a setback, such as losing a job or an investment that didn't work out, the question changes from, how will I recover it with more work, to what additional value can I create in this new scenario? This mental reorientation allows us to see crises not as dead ends, but as disguised opportunities to innovate and develop new competencies. A professional who has dedicated years to honing their communication and problem-solving skills, for example, will be better positioned to adapt to new roles or even to start a new venture. As their value capital is transferable and always growing, the very structure of how we perceive financial success is subverted. Instead of associating success with a full bank account or ostentatious material goods, the new metric is based on the depth and breadth of the positive impact we generate. A person may have a modest net worth, but be considered financially successful if their expertise positively transforms the lives of hundreds of people or solves a systemic problem in their community. This shift redefines the very notion of wealth, dissociating it from mere accumulation and linking it to significant contribution. This perspective not only alleviates the pressure of social comparison, but also encourages us to seek paths of financial fulfillment that are intrinsically rewarding and sustainable in the long term, aligning our material goals with a deeper sense of purpose and legacy. One of the most profound manifestations of the identity transformation, when value becomes the vector of wealth, lies in the reconfiguration of our self-perception in relation to time and productivity. Instead of measuring success by the number of hours spent on a task, or by the speed at which we complete a work cycle, we begin to value the density and quality of the value delivered in each unit of time. This means that the focus shifts from mere busyness to effectiveness. It's no longer about being present and active, but about ensuring that every moment dedicated to an activity results in a substantial and measurable impact. A 2-hour conference, for example, that results in a new strategic partnership or the resolution of a complex conflict, has an intrinsically greater value than a full day dedicated to low-impact administrative tasks. Therefore, the pursuit of efficiency is no longer about doing more in less time, but about maximizing the return on value for every moment invested. This paradigm shift also reshapes how we view learning and continuous development. If previously the acquisition of knowledge was seen as a prerequisite, a step to be completed before starting to earn money, it now becomes an intrinsic and continuous component of value generation itself. Learning becomes a direct investment, a means of enhancing delivery capacity, making us more valuable in the market and consequently more capable of attracting wealth. Notice how this differs from the idea of studying to get a good job. Here, learning is a dynamic process that directly feeds the supply of value, allowing us to adapt more quickly to changes, anticipate trends, and create innovative solutions for emerging problems. Intellectual curiosity and the pursuit of new competencies cease to be a burden and become an inexhaustible source of competitive advantage and prosperity. Additionally, the dynamics of collaboration and reciprocity take a central role in this new perspective. When value is the main currency, the idea that success is a zero-sum game, where one's gain implies another's loss, is completely dismantled. Instead, we strengthen our bonds with others, understanding that delivering value to third parties, be they colleagues, clients, partners, or even competitors in certain situations, creates an ecosystem of mutual abundance. Acting with integrity, offering genuine solutions and seeking mutual benefit builds reputation and trust, intangible assets that are fundamental for attracting opportunities and resources. Think of a team leader who, instead of withholding information to maintain power, openly shares their knowledge and empowers their subordinates. This act of generating value for their team does not diminish their own value. On the contrary, it amplifies it as the team becomes more productive, innovative, and loyal, generating superior results that directly benefit them. This virtuous interdependence is a powerful engine for sustainable prosperity. Finally, the identity transformation manifests in the replacement of a scarcity mindset with one of abundance in our internal and external dialogue. If before the conversation revolved around limitations, obstacles, and lack of resources, the focus now turns to possibilities, solutions, and unexplored potential. This does not ignore challenges, but addresses them with a constructive perspective. Faced with this limitation, what creative value can I generate? This change in internal narrative directly impacts our actions and consequently, the results we attract. A person constantly focused on their disadvantages will find it difficult to identify and capitalize on opportunities, while someone who sees themselves as a value generator, even in difficult circumstances, finds ways to innovate and prosper. This positive and proactive self-image is in itself a powerful magnet for wealth, as it attracts not only resources but also people, ideas, and circumstances that reinforce this belief and transform it into a tangible reality. As we weave together the threads of the preceding reflections, a new landscape unfolds, where the contours of unbridled effort give way to a more subtle and powerful understanding of prosperity. Reflecting on this journey so far, we realize that the relentless pursuit of financial results often blinds us to the true source of their generation. What once seemed like a labyrinth of complex rules and continuous sacrifices begins to simplify, revealing an organizing principle that permeates all interactions and creations. The energy that once dissipated in reactive responses to external demands finds a new channel, a direction towards intentional construction and constant improvement. At this point of convergence, the distinction between doing and being fades, giving way to a new way of acting in the world. Daily actions and strategic decisions, when informed by this new perspective, cease to be mere acts to complete tasks and are transformed into opportunities for cultivation and expansion. Like a patient gardener who prepares the soil, plants seeds, and nurtures growth, we come to understand that wealth is not something conquered suddenly, but something that flourishes from well-tended ground and constant attention to the needs of what is being cultivated. The very notion of time and productivity takes on a new metric, valuing the quality and depth of impact over mere timekeeping or volume of activity. As we pivot towards the conclusion, the clarity lies not in a set of rules to be followed, but in a deep attunement to the natural flow of value. Interactions become less transactional and more collaborative, driven by the understanding that individual growth is intrinsically linked to collective flourishing. Adversity, once seen as an insurmountable obstacle, is revealed as a catalyst for innovation and the strengthening of the intrinsic capacity for adaptation and creation. Thus, what lies ahead is not a magic formula, but the consolidation of a mindset that, beyond mere accumulation, seeks positive influence and significant contribution as the true foundations of a financially prosperous and fully realized life.